Hey everyone, it's Alex with the PCRI. Today I have the honor of interviewing Darryl Mitteldorf. Now, I've known Darryl for I think my entire career in prostate cancer for the last 10 years. And the great thing about my position here at PCRI is I get exposure to all the things that happen in the prostate cancer world. And Darryl has been somebody I've always admired and looked up to because he's extremely innovative, well spoken, and he has an incredible passion for patients, prostate cancer patients, and even small groups to the larger groups. It's amazing to see what he's done. And we're going to talk about all the really cool, innovative programs that Malecare has today. Hi, Darryl. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Hope you are too.
Everything's going well. I'm so excited to finally have you on the channel. I know I've mentioned before that I've been a secret fan of you for quite a long time. I grew up in kind of prostate land since I was 18, and I remember sitting on ad boards and thinking, that guy's cool. He has some really cool ideas. So that's pretty awesome, and I'm really glad you're here today.
Well, your secret is out. You're a fan. Thank you for that. It's mutual. I mean, Mailcare and all of my colleagues are fans of PCRI and the work you guys do. And there's no BS with that. I mean, we're always advocates for the kind of great content you guys provide our patient community. So thank you for that.
It's an honor to do it. So let's get into it. Now, I know that you've had a long and incredible career in prostate cancer, but you also have a social worker background. And so I think you have degrees in this actually. How did you choose to get into prostate cancer?
So I am a social worker. I have degrees in that and public health and MBA and that kind of thing. And I've also dropped out of a couple of degree programs, including computer science at Harvard and a few other things. So, my degree world is varied and sometimes shameful and sometimes pride-inducing. But for many years, I was working as a refugee resettlement officer in a variety of countries in Europe and Africa. And sometime in 1997, I heard that my dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Family's in New York City, so I came running back to New York, thinking he was going to die any minute. And as we all know, in prostate cancer world, men live many years with their diagnosis. I didn't know that at the time. So here I am in New York City now, caregiving to my dad, living in his home in Manhattan and without a job. With time on my hands, I started a support group for him and noticed within the context of that group that many of the men were presenting with similar kinds of issues that refugees present. Refugees are typically older adults and their children who are taken from what we might classically call a normal course of life and thrown into life-threatening situations and upheaval, and many times are victims of torture and economic devastation. My dad didn't suffer torture, but the mental and emotional impact that he suffered, as well as many of the folks showing up in the support group that I was leading, were similar. So I took the strategies and interventions that were used around what's called adjustment disorder, that's used in the refugee resettlement world, and applied them to prostate cancer patients, and it worked. Mailcare was an organization that started to build around those innovations in the world of what's called psycho-oncology, which is dealing with the emotional and psychological impact of cancer on patients. And many people liked what we were doing, emulated it, learned from it. And now what we did in the late 1990s is now the standard of care for for most cancer support groups for adults worldwide.
So, as far as, you mentioned support groups. Like, how many support groups do you guys have now? I know that you've had a large focus in the LGBTQI plus community. You have African Americans, American Indians, so many different like subdivisions. How many support groups do you have, and what type of activity are you seeing?
So prior to March 2020, prior to COVID, we had 82 in-person groups, and each of those groups had subdivisions focused on either gay men with prostate cancer, advanced stage prostate cancer. Some of the groups had caregiver groups, but all that has gone to waste now. Some of our groups have converted to virtual, but what we're really jazzed up about is the sort of purchase by pretty much all of our population on online text-based communities. We've recently hit 80,000 active members uh, who are texting each other and supporting each other through what at first glance might look like a primitive online community, but actually is the most dynamic vehicle for providing peer-to-peer support that we've come up with.
So, speaking of online communities, you have the largest prostate cancer forum to my knowledge, and I'm on Health Unlocked quite often because I want to learn about prostate cancer, and it also helps keep my ear to the ground to make sure that PCRI is covering what we need to cover. So, how did you get into Health Unlocked? I know that. How long have you been a part of that, and how did you get started?
So Health Unlocked was started by friends in England, and I guess 6 or 7 years ago, we started talking how to create a good interface, how to make a welcoming community using design, how to make using Health Unlocked and our male care community be effortless and simple and welcoming, as well as protective. I mean, to reduce opportunities for spammers and horrible people and bad advertising. We have no advertising on our platform, and to be able to make it absolutely useful for whoever wants to find use on it. And you're right, it's I mean, from what we can gather, it's the world's largest prostate cancer community. Within that realm, we have subdivisions from advanced stage to anxiety. Our anxiety community is our largest, with over 49,000 people participating on that. Our advanced stage community is about 14,000 as of today, 1460, something like that. Uh, but metrics are sort of deceiving. We're not interested really in creating an ever expanding number of participants. We want them to find value in action. So what we really look at is how long they stay on the platform, and it's usually a long time, almost every day for many people. What kind of interactions they have, both in the public forum and into the one-to-one private or direct messaging that people do, and to what extent they take action on the suggestions that we have. So we follow up with our patient community, and with 80,000 people, that's a massive undertaking, but we have a large staff here at Malecare, and a couple of dozen interns spread out around the world that help with that. We have a really deep understanding of what patients are interested in and how they benefit from. And we take that understanding and replay it into the community. So the community is not just a place where people connect with each other, it's a place where people grow with each other. And they grow as a consequence of us at our back end, so to speak, distilling all the knowledge and activities that people are participating in and bringing that back into the community so everybody can benefit. In a way, it's a medical intervention that looks like a text-based community. And for that, we're very proud of. It's also one of our innovations and such.
That's so cool. I mean, I'm always excited to be on the platform. I learned so much, and it's really incredible how that peer to peer conversation between the patients plays out. And you're a great moderator. I've read many, many of your responses, and I would definitely encourage people to go join it. Another product that you guys have of your nonprofit that's pretty incredible is Cancer Copilot. So, can you run people through what Cancer Copilot is and the benefits of it?
So Cancer Copilot um, started from complaints that we were receiving about other kinds of patient navigation opportunities. So patient navigation is a highfalutin phrase used to describe how patients figure out how to pay for things, or how to access healthcare, or how to get a ride to the hospital, or find food in their refrigerators or such, or even get a refrigerator in some cases. The most of the problem we were seeing is that patient navigation is usually a live person-to-person interaction. Typically a nurse or someone who's trained as a layperson, but with training as a patient navigator, helping another patient, somebody, or a relative of that patient, making a phone call typically and saying, look, I live in Des Moines, Iowa. I need help paying for my electricity because my medications the cost of the copays are overbearing because I'm unemployed, I'm elderly, and, on and on and on. And Social Security isn't, covering what I need to pay for. The complaints were, frankly, around racism. I mean, a lot of Black men were feeling like they weren't getting the quality of services that white men might be getting in their imagination. Uh, One of the complaints that I remember that stood out extraordinary and brought tears to my eyes was around organic vegetables. This guy wanted, a referral to like a Whole Foods kind of place in his neighborhood, and the nurse navigator kept insisting, no, 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 you have to go to the local place where you're just getting the standard kind of bananas that are filled with nitrous oxide or whatever bananas have in them that's not organic. And that brought to mind, how can we defeat the systemic racism that may be innocently applied within the patient navigation programs that already exist? So we thought, look, there's a world of AI, artificial intelligence, there's a world of natural language programming, and it's all just emerging. So myself and several of my colleagues here at Malecare took some online courses at Stanford, which were free, to learn how to do artificial intelligence programming. And we learned, and it was an effort, but it paid off in that we created Cancer Copilot, which is an online artificial intelligence, natural language programming kind of patient navigation tool. So and the beautiful thing about it is it's agnostic to who you are racially or gender or whatever, unless you feel that's a particular importance for your unique needs. And what we're finding is that most of the people using it, and it's only been up since April of 2021. I mean, it took 3 years to build, but we launched it in April of 2021. Um, People are getting a lot of help out of it. I mean, it's being used 24/7. It's right now it's only in English. We hope to include Spanish and Arabic and Russian and a few other languages so that it's useful. We are sharing databases with our partners in other countries so that we can make it an international intervention. And we're hoping that it'll go beyond prostate cancer and be useful for all 200 or so cancer types, so that ultimately Cancer Copilot is the go-to place for helping to pay for things. Our country is unique in that we don't have national health care, and we're not going to talk about that today, but that does present problems for patients in paying for things. So Cancer Copilot so far is a quite wonderful success.
It's pretty incredible to look at what you've done and the type of help that you're giving to people. I love it because it's so holistic. It's not just looking at treatments, side effects, and kind of some lifestyle issues, which I think everybody focuses on, but you're bringing a much broader perspective to how people should live their lives when they have prostate cancer, and also the caregivers that and partners that we see in the platforms. So you also have a really cool. Now, I love this tool. I've used it like 20,000 times, I think, because I push our helpline to it. Your clinical trial finder on your site is incredible. Can you tell the patients about that?
So we have a clinical trial finder on our site. That's incredible. Uh, I mean, I suppose we should name it incredible, but we don't. It's basically a clinical trials finder. What's nice about it is it has also an artificial intelligence kind of background where it's parsing out based on patient inputs what trials may be applicable to them. Um, it doesn't ask questions, it just follows behavior of the inputs and where your mouse goes or where your finger goes on your mobile device. And based on those little subtleties, we can sort of capture an understanding of where you're at in your health seeking journey and what trials may be most applicable to you. But more important, just as importantly, is the idea of being accepted into the trials. So many people will apply for trials and feel exceedingly disappointed that they're turned down, for a disease or a health state that they weren't aware of. Perhaps like, somebody had spider eggs in their legs at some point in their life. You wouldn't think like that might exclude you from a trial, but it might. And we're able to sort of parse that out so that the trials that are sort of offered to you and the locations and sites that are offered are probably going to accept you. And that reduces a lot of the emotional disappointment and, frankly, the amount of time it's spent in trying to figure out how to fill out the forms to go to a trial. Way too often patients in advanced stage seeking trials rely on their doctors, but the dirty little secret is that doctors are paid for referrals to clinical trials, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, people need incentives to take time out of their professional lives to understand what a trial offers to patients and then to match those patients on your caseload to that trial. What Mailcare's Trial Finder does is get you there without having to go through your doctor, except later on when you need a health record or something like that. But uh, so it's a very fast, efficient way to do things. And we see trials not as trials, not as science experiments, not as some noble exercise in, being like, a contributor to modern medical understanding. Clinical trials are another treatment opportunity. If you've exhausted what's available and FDA approved, then trials give you another, a second line of opportunity to live a longer and happier life. And really, that's all Malecare is about. We're not really, I mean, we have a research group, and I hope we'll talk about that. And we have patents and we have innovations and such. But at the end of the day, we just want people to die with smiles on their faces when they're 120, you know?
Oh, I love that. And I appreciate that perspective. I mean, I was even talking to a patient. I was shadowing Dr. Scholes this week in his clinic as part of education for PCRI. And he just looks at me and he goes, I just don't want to be a guinea pig. I feel like, so much of prostate cancer, when people are going into this, they're kind of being looked at as a guinea pig sometimes. And maybe that's not even the intent of the medical community. I'm sure it's not. It depends on the doctor, of course. But as a patient, you want to be a human being. And so the fact that you're tailoring your clinical trials according to that is incredible. Back to that incredible, you definitely need to name it incredible by now.
All right, we'll name it. We'll name ourselves the Incredible Nonprofit. How's
There
that?
you go.
Thank you for that.
There
But
you go.
but I mean, isn't that what we do or what we should be doing? I mean, I don't give a damn about cancer cells. I don't give a damn about science or hardcore science. I want people to be happy. I want to be happy, and I want to live in a world of happy people, and in a selfish way, perhaps it's my goal not to work to cure cancer, but to create a world of happy people so I could be happy in that world. And I don't, I think that should be our goal for almost every endeavor in the world today.
I agree. Very well said. So, honestly, there's so many different innovative tools you guys have. I'm just going to keep going and we'll get to kind of the more advice type of concepts in a little bit. But can you talk about CancerGraph? So, this is pretty cool as an app. And can you explain to them what it is and how people can use it on an everyday basis in treatment?
Sure. So CancerGraph is a mobile app for Android and iOS, Apple phones and such. It's free. You download it. We built it. That took 4 years to build. And we launched it, I think, in 2016 or 17. And it's grown. I think we're at version 3 or 2.6 or something like that now. It's used by 130,000 people as of last week worldwide. So the bottom line is you go to your doctor asks how you've been the last 3 months since I saw you last, and maybe you remember when you threw up or when you had a pain or when you were experiencing a rash that you didn't understand, and you have barely an idea of when and where that occurred. CancerGraph solves that memory problem. It's a memory offloading device. So the easiest way to describe it is to tell people just download it and try it for yourself. Or go to cancergraph.org or .com, which is a website that has lots of wonderful pictures. It's the world's easiest device. for remembering symptoms and side effects as a consequence of your disease. And it works for all cancers.
That's
Uh,
so cool.
yeah, and it sends a history of the occurrences that you've had to your doctor if you choose to allow the device to do that. Um, it's been written up in numerous journals from the Lancet on down. It's been used in a number of clinical trials as a quality of life data collecting device. And it's also been shown to be useful in helping to remember medication compliance. There's a wonderful paper using CancerGraph for brain neoplasms where patients were offered CancerGraph or two other things. And with the two other things, which was just standard of care, like, just here, try and keep a diary or something. Both of those patients suffered, forgot their meds, and died sooner rather than later. With CancerGraph, people were remembering to do things and making good choices that they could share with their doctors and discuss with their doctors. And as a consequence, a lot of people live longer. So CancerGraph has kept people alive, has kept people under medication compliance, but it's also helped people understand the journey that they're going through because it creates a graph. So you have like this really funky, beautiful sort of line graph that shows the intersection of medications and therapies, and when you had diarrhea, and or when you were happy, because it also measures degrees of happiness. And I think the biggest selling point of CancerGraph is that it literally takes less than 3 seconds to use. Whenever you have an experience that you want to remember, I mean, we've timed like almost 100 people, and it's well under 3 seconds to input that stuff, no matter day, night, when you're half asleep. If you're struggling to go to the bathroom and have a bowel movement or whatever, you can record that. And that's something that's useful for helping you and your doctor understand whether or not the treatment that you're engaged in is being useful or not.
I mean, I've had multiple patients who have talked to me and they've used it, and it's been so helpful just to be able to go to the doctor. They can't remember. I mean, there's so much going on when they're taking care of themselves, maybe even loved ones dealing with prostate cancer or just the world around them. So to be able to go and actually have that data with them into those appointments is absolutely awesome.
Yeah. Another benefit that we haven't really promoted very widely, but some patients have benefited from, is that when there's a clinical trial that's precisely matched to that patient's experience, like a trial that's trying to examine peripheral neuropathy as a consequence of androgen deprivation therapy, we've matched people directly to that trial only because of their use of CancerGraph. And those people got benefit from the product that the trial was testing out. Um, being able to concierge and guide people to treatment opportunities that no one would have been aware of were it not for their use of CancerGraph is really just gratifying at our end to know that we're doing that.
So cool. So, speaking of matching, you have something that's very unique. I've never seen this in any type of nonprofit or cancer space, CancerMatch. So, this is a dating app for cancer patients. Am I correct?
You are correct. So one day in 2003 or four, I'm at a Lance Armstrong event in Austin, Texas, along with a couple of thousand other people. But some guy on giving a speech uh, just said out loud, it's a shame that there's no dating service for cancer patients because they wouldn't have to explain their distress and misery to somebody who doesn't have cancer. I mean, you could just date people and everyone understands what you're going through and not get upset that you're losing your hair or feeling depressed or fatigued one day, and no, it's a bad date kind of situation. It's just the consequence of your therapy. Using an early version of a mobile device, I typed out a couple of things and basically set up an exceedingly primitive version of CancerMatch .com that afternoon, and then built a dating site that's seen over 1 million people and using it, and several marriages come out of it.
That's so cool. So how many matches would you say you guys have had so far?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't a clue, but I mean, thousands, I mean, just by virtue of, the usage numbers and such.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And also, now you guys also have, going back to AI real quick, I don't want to miss this. You also have an AI newsletter that you just came out with. Is that attached to Cancer Copilot or is that a separate program?
No, I mean, Cancer Copilot has been sort of like the global term for some of our programs, including CancerGraph and a few other things. I mean, the patient navigation thing is the primary tool that forms Cancer Copilot, but we basically lump everything together now, just because it's easier for people to get to. I mean, we don't need to have
That makes
multiple
sense.
silly names. Most of our things now begin with the word cancer. So CancerMatch, CancerGraph, Cancer Copilot, and a few other things. But so the idea of solutions is, which we also launched recently, um, comes from the idea that people are, and it's not just foreign prostate cancer. Anyone receiving a newsletter about their disease just gets a jumble of articles that may or may not pertain to them or interest them. So we figured out using, the thank goodness for Stanford offering free coursework and such, how to use an AI tool, an artificial intelligence tool, to understand what interests a patient is trying to learn more about and what articles exist in the world or videos exist in the world that can answer those questions that a patient has. So that every week, our newsletters, which we call Solutions, sends matches. Well, let me back up a bit. What we do is we understand what a patient is after based on what they're reading the week before. So after 3 or 4 weeks, we have a fairly dynamic understanding of what interests a patient, what problems they're trying to fix. Are they trying to deal with side effects from radiation or something related to a new molecule like an enzalutamide or apalutamide, or trying to figure out new questions to ask or what diet to have, or struggling with some home issue, or something, versus just getting a whole bunch of stuff that they could care less about. Then we go out into the world, our computer goes out into the world and reads everything pertaining to prostate cancer. And we read, the computer reads, our artificial intelligence algorithm reads all that stuff and assigns a variety of keywords, usually between 50 and 200. And we also put measurements to those keywords, to what extent on a 1 to 5 scale each of those keywords relates to the article. And then we try to figure out a reading level for that article and a whole bunch of other insights that we could derive from it. And then we deliver only those articles that are of interest, that match the interests of the subscriber based on their behavior in the previous weeks. So that ultimately, and like right now we have about 17,000 subscribers. So, in theory, we could be sending out 17,000 unique newsletters per week, based on all the computer churning that's going on in the background. The innovation for that is that, unlike YouTube and Netflix that has content sitting on their servers forever and you just pull from it, we wanted content that was 1 week old or less. So every, you know, previous 7 days, our back end is going out into the world, reading, digesting, analyzing, and attributing a variety of content. And then, we send out Monday morning for several hours Monday morning. It's churning and churning and churning away, trying to figure out which 3 to 6 articles to send to each individual subscriber. So our newsletter, and we've worked with a company in New Orleans to develop that, and now they're going to run with it, or have started running with it, and offering it up to other companies and such to use the similar kind of back end. So not only have we created this, but we've created something that is a benefit right now for people around the world. We've basically, I mean, we and our colleagues and coworkers and, are proud that we created a new way of delivering information that's concierge to the needs of individuals rather than just massively sending out 20 articles and hope that one's relevant to a person's situation.
That's so cool. See, Darryl, this is why I love your brain. You take concepts from other things and apply it into prostate cancer in ways that no one else does, and I truly appreciate that.